This is Mary Humphrey of Mary Humphrey Coaching. You know, sometimes we're inspired by certain things that may seem little to someone else. Those of us that have overcome narcissistic situations and relationships, we have a total understanding. This is a quote from Maya Angelou. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. This speaks so boldly to victims of narcissism. As a victim, we can feel guilt years and years later. Now, I want to interject really quickly here that if you have overwhelming guilt or sadness, depression, anxiety, that leaves you in a state of not being able to function, and by function I mean getting up out of bed, taking care of yourself, going to work, just being able to live a normal life in that respect, then seek some help, seek some professional help, and get some help with your mental state. I'm not saying you have a mental problem, just get some help. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, because there's a lot to deal with when we are healing from narcissistic situations. Now, for those of us that have healed, we're still feeling some guilt. We will feel guilt for the rest of our lives. We're not going to feel it every single day. It's similar to grief. When we grieve, we realize that we're getting better. We realize that we're healing, going down this path, feel like we're not hurting anymore, and we feel like we've healed, and the pain is finally behind us, but all of a sudden, it's back there again. It's back. You know, the pain is back. The sadness is back. And sometimes the buzz is over, and sometimes it's just a slight feeling of pain. Sometimes we'll feel it for 5 minutes. Sometimes we'll feel it for hours. Sometimes we'll feel it for days. Again, seek help if it's debilitating to you. What I'm getting at is the guilt that we feel following these narcissistic relationships is normal. It's very normal, and it just comes over you just like the feeling of grief would. It comes back, and it's always going to come back. Something's going to trigger you. It may be a holiday, it may be a special day, it could be a smell in the air, it could be anything, but something is going to trigger you. Now, if you don't understand this guilt, I'm going to explain that to you. The guilt is, how did I let this relationship happen? How did it go on for so many years and I didn't know what was going on? Until you know what you don't know is what you don't know. If you don't know what a narcissistic relationship or a narcissist is, or someone that's self-centered is, or someone that's emotionally abusive is, you don't understand, you don't know. And you try during these, many times while you're in these relationships, you think, if I say the right thing, if I do the right thing, if I act the right way, I'm going to get this person back that I originally knew. I liked them while we were dating. I liked them when we first got married. And it's not that I don't like them now, but I'm sad because they aren't the same person anymore. And sometimes you'll say, I don't know where I went wrong. That's a really ugly thing that comes out of guilt. We should never feel guilty for something that we have not really truly done deliberately to someone to hurt them. Guilt is a feeling that we should have when we've deliberately hurt someone. When we feel guilty, if we've come to the reality of a narcissistic relationship, it's a different type of guilt. The origins of this guilt is based on, why did I not stop this relationship from forming? How did I not know that this person was a narcissist? And how did I have children with this person? And then sometimes we raise our children. We could be married to someone who is a closet narcissist, as I prefer to call them, that they hide behind closed doors, that no one else in the world realizes that they are a narcissist. And we have children with these people most of the time, sometimes I should say. And then we feel guilty later in life because so much has been hidden from these children. There's a couple of other things that we can feel guilty for, and we shouldn't. We're living in a society these days with social media and quick judgments of people. So a victim has trouble reaching out to society and talking to people because the finger gets pointed at them. How did you raise a child in a narcissistic home? How did you not take your children out of that situation? Well, here's the thing. You may not even know that you're with a narcissist if you aren't aware of narcissism. This could go on for 10 years or more. It could go on for almost 20 years. So the guilt can come from so many different directions. It can even come from family. It can come from tribes of narcissists. So a victim's involved in a narcissistic, emotionally abusive relationship, and they don't have anybody to turn to, and they fear going to anybody else because they know what the backlash is going to be from this narcissist. And I'm not talking about always a physical backlash. I'm talking more emotional. Sometimes it'll hinge on physical. If it's physical, someone needs to call 911. Someone needs to get help. It's a seriously dangerous situation, and the authorities need to get involved when it's physical. When it's emotional, the victim has trouble figuring out oftentimes, who can I go to? The narcissist has a tribe of flying monkeys that believe in the narcissist. Usually it can be family, it can be friends, it can be strangers, it can be a pastor, and it makes it really hard for the victim to get out there and say, hey, I'm dealing with emotional manipulation and abuse. I don't know what to do. The victim will oftentimes, like as I've said before, they'll try to do everything they can do to upright the relationship. But 10, 15 years down the road, if they've left this narcissistic relationship, or even if they're still in it, they're going to feel this sense of guilt. Again, I'll read this to you. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. Maya Angelou. Forgive yourself. If you didn't know how to spot a charmer, if you didn't know how to spot love bombing, you could easily fall in love with this narcissist because they come across as this charming, perfect person that's head over heels in love with you. But they have their own agenda. But you don't know this. You don't know this until it starts crumbling apart and you start seeing the behavior of the narcissist. You start seeing, you're like, who is this person? What's happened to them? So you can't feel guilty for that. You can't feel guilty for trying to hold your family together. The one thing that you could feel guilty about, and I'm not even saying feel guilty, but if a child is being abused, yeah, you need to do something about that. But I'm talking about situations where the children aren't being abused, but the person in the relationship is. And oftentimes that happens with these closet narcissists. Nobody in the world knows what's going on except the two that are in the relationship. There's no reason to feel guilty because you haven't done anything specifically wrong, but I'm going to tell you that the guilt comes out. The guilt will still make its ugly appearance, just like grief, when you least expect it. But remind yourself, for those brief moments of guilt, forgive yourself for what you did not know when you didn't know it. It happens. I pray for you today that you're not in this situation. I pray for healing and I pray for strength for you. If you found this video helpful, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like this content, please subscribe. Please help this creator out. Sharing is definitely caring. If you know someone that needs this message, please share with them today. Have a wonderful day.